Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to do a venomization video and we're going to take some of the characters from Sonic the Hedgehog and we're going to venomize them. I picked 3 characters I haven't done before. Let's bring these illustrations to life. Welcome back to the Department of Multiversal Matters. Today we're going to look at Earth 434. During the same timeline as the events that are happening on Earth Prime, with the war between Megatron and the Autobots. So this planet's pretty much like the Earth of Earth Prime. However, there are some characters from video games, such as Sonic the Hedgehog, that actually are in this reality. The characters have come in from an alternate dimension and they have intermingled with the inhabitants of this Earth. This has allowed the characters to become part and parcel of everyday life. The first character is Rouge the Bat. Now, although quite sophisticated and quite cheeky and alluring at times, Rouge the Bat is a thief and she likes to steal things that are expensive, pretty and pretty much anything that she could have a reward from. One of the items she's going to steal is a rare gem that sparkles red but has a black organic substance in the centre of it. This gem was unearthed in a recent archaeological dig and it was on display at one of the highest scientific research centres for the public to see for a few days only. This allowed her to sneak into the premises and to use her abilities to fly past the security system, then take this item. However, something went wrong with the heist. Someone else was after the jewel. A strange shadow-like figure. And as she was taking this gem from its case, this shadow-like figure deliberately tripped the alarm and the security system. Lasers came down from the ceiling and started targeting Rouge. As she was making her escape, they fired and one of them hit the gem, reflecting off it but also causing a very small minute crack leading down to what looked like a black goo-like substance within. Rouge was unaware of this as she was flying out of the nearest window to escape the facility. While she was up high in the air and several miles away at this point, the black goo-like substance had come partway out of the gem and decided to wrap around her. It was a Klyntar symbiote. As we all know, it's basically venom, the race that can act as parasites and take over their hosts. As the symbiote bonded with her, she struggled in the air trying to think, what's this? And unlike normal characters that fly or creatures that fly, she can seem to hover in place instead of falling down without flapping her bat-like wings. This gave her an unusual advantage, meaning that she didn't fall straight away. It wasn't too long before she was completely covered in the symbiote. She screamed as it started to bond with her DNA and memories flashed of other such creatures here on Earth. Almost as quickly as it began, she became a venomized form. The black goo-like substance turned to a kind of lilac colour, nice and streamlined, sleek with larger wings. She could fly faster and further, very little effort at all, and she decided it was time to go and free her brethren. Our next character is also a thief, and one who was tricked by Dr. Eggman at one point to steal the Chaos Emeralds. Jet the Hawk. He inherited the throne of the Babylon Rogues from his father, along with the key that would lead him to the legendary Babylon Gardens, where he could find the treasure. This is something his clan had been looking for ever since time can remember. With the 7 Chaos Emeralds and the key, Jet would be able to find the location of this legendary treasure. Treasure was said to enhance the abilities of the user as well as give an ultimate power equal to or even surpassing the Chaos Emeralds. In order to achieve this, they entered the World Grand Prix and he used his gear, which is kind of like a hoverboard, to enter the competition in order to win all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds, as a Chaos Emerald was the ticket entry and the winner would claim all 7 as their prize. This was an offer far too tempting to resist. Jet decided that he would enter the competition, and along the way he managed to gather all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds and enter the Babylon Gardens. As he entered the gardens, he was amazed at the riches and the treasures that he found, as well as the awe of this ancient monument and structure. Now Jet, being from an alien race that got stranded on Earth, still coming from the dimension of Sonic and the others, but it all happened around about the same time, was kind of used to the type of symbols and the writing within the Babylon Gardens. Part of him also wished his father was there at the time. The key thing about this is Jet managed to find the treasure. It was a container box with a warning inscribed on it. never to open it or release the power that's inside. The reason for this is it can corrupt and take over the universe, and it was deemed far too dangerous to be used by those of the past. Jet was a bit unsure about using this treasure after reading the warning and inscription. He had a foreboding sense of danger coming from the box. However, Dr. Eggman, who was greedy for the treasure and wanted all of the power of the Chaos Emeralds and this unique, powerful item to himself, decided to surprise attack Jet, sending him flying after shooting a laser blast, and the box flying through the air until it hit the wall and smashed, leaving a kind of gooey substance on the pieces. Dr. Eggman hollered, "No!" He was furious. He couldn't believe that the treasure he saw was just a box that broke so easily on the wall containing this weird goo-like substance. It was nothing. How could this be powerful? He turned to go for the Chaos Emeralds instead, while Jet was kind of coming to from the force of the blast. Jet looked around, he saw the box, he saw the substance, and before he knew it, it launched itself at him. It started to go up his arm and his leg, slowly covering his body. Jet instinctively went to grab his gear and tried to get away. At this point, something strange happened. This weird gooey substance also covered his gear. Next thing you know, there was a cocoon type effect around the two. They were led on the floor in this kind of overall encasement of the gooey substance that was flowing and looking a bit organic. Dr. Eggman was unaware of this the whole time as he went to get the Chaos Emeralds, thinking finally they're mine, the power to get rid of that hedgehog and take over the world. Then he heard a noise from behind him. Dr. Eggman turned around and he saw the black goo-like substance covering Jet as he stood up. What's going on here? Jet had not only been enhanced with his abilities using the gear, but had a bit more of an evil, sinister pose. The feathers on his head kind of became sharp talons sticking out of the back of his head. The board seemed to fuse with part of his hand when he touched it, and it seemed to have a life of its own. A set of eyes appeared on it, as well as this black gooey substance, which slowly turned purple. Jet had a sinister smile on his face. He looked at Dr. Eggman and he said, "Those Chaos Emeralds are mine." Silver is from 200 years in the future. He is tasked with protecting the timeline from major catastrophes and events that would change the span of history, disrupting the peace that had finally inhabited Earth and all of its creatures and inhabitants. One such reason for Silver coming back in time to the present day period, where Rouge and Jet the Hawk had become venomized, was because the timeline suddenly read a complete and utter change of an epic proportion. This wasn't like any normal blip or catastrophe. This was something that was erasing the future and the timeline. So Silver jumped back in time. Now Silver has a unique ability. He has a psychokinesis, the ability to move objects with his mind and affect the environment around him. To us, this is like a cool superpower. No one really has this ability in this time frame. But 200 years in the future is considered normal, and pretty much everybody has some form of ability like this. Anyway, coming back in time, Silver just knew that there was a great threat against the Earth, and he had to collect these weird gems that had a black ooze inside of them, and treasures scattered throughout Earth. On one such occasion, he started looking in a forest zone and came up to a set of ancient ruins. He could sense through his psychic powers that what he was looking for was there, but he wasn't quite sure what's going on. He saw some inscriptions that he couldn't quite make out, but as he moved his hand over old scripted writing, kind of hit a switch and a door appeared, leading deeper into the ruins and underground. Now, normally these places are booby-trapped, but for Silver it wasn't so bad. As he walked down and the traps went off one by one, he used his abilities to basically keep himself safe and to either slow the traps down or stop them altogether. Even though this does take a toll on him over time, it wasn't too much of a use. Eventually, he came to what looked like an ancient altar, and there seemed to be some green glowing gems at the side in some weird face-like structures, looking similar to hedgehog species. He wasn't quite sure where they came from. There's also multiple races in the statues around the room. There were echidnas, there were hawks, crocodiles, bees, chameleons, are common in his time period, but they weren't very common on Earth during this time period. Silver went up the steps to the altar and looked for the treasure. He put his hand on top of the altar slab and it seemed to respond to him. Maybe because he was one of the races from the statues, the altar kind of opened up and there was a green light underneath as a gem lifted up, kind of like a teal colour with a black ooze-like substance in it, but this substance was moving. He thought this was a bit weird, and as he went to put his hand out to have a look at it, the gem cracked and fell apart, pretty much turning to dust as it had been there for centuries. However, the black substance inside had not turned to dust. It was still active and alive, and as Silver put his hand out to pick up the gem and it crumbled to dust, the substance stuck to his hand, also absorbed the dust of the encasing gem, turning it from black to a greenish colour. Now this substance started covering Silver, and he started trying to use his psychokinesis powers to remove the substance from him. However, it didn't really work. He could get sections of it off, but it was too late. It was spreading around him really quickly. As he went to release a massive psionic blast, the weird ooze substance engulfed him completely. Silver arched forwards and put a hand on the altar as he dropped to one knee. This substance was merging with him rapidly and encasing him in a green kind of hue. It kind of developed the pattern of the symbols from the palm of his hands onto the body. It also developed 2 extra hands that were floating, made out of the ooze-like substance. This was because this creature had inherited the psychic powers Silver possesses as it bonded with his DNA. As such, in the venomized form, it had the ability to not only levitate parts of itself that are separated from the main body, but they too could also use the psychic powers to a degree in order to be useful to trap, ensnare, capture and defeat enemies. As he lifted up and his eyes glowed like a green visor, there was a smile and a long tongue came out. Our hero, who'd been sent to protect the timeline, had just become the latest venomized character who could bring catastrophe to all future time itself. What did you guys think? Which one was your favourite? Let me know in the comments below. I think they all came out really well, and I'm quite enjoying how the artwork's coming out and the backgrounds. I think there's a nice contrast and composition between the two. Do you guys want to see a part 2 to this video? If you do, smash the like button. If I can get enough likes on this video, I will do a part 2 where I'll take Sonic, Knuckles, Metalex, and maybe one other character, and I will turn them into a venomized form and add them to this venomized alternative Earth we've got. Friday's video will not have a Copic illustration. That'll be next week. I've got to wait for a few supplies to come in. So we're going to have an extra digital illustration for Friday. So the next 2 videos on the channel will be Subnautica related. Mondays is definitely Subnautica creatures venomized as part of the Multiverse story arc. Stay safe everybody, and I'll catch you next time.